Hey, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I'm here. I'm Legal Vices. This is my channel. It's Friday night at 10:03. Sorry, well, it's 10:04 now. Sorry, I'm sort of semi in the process of preparing my drink for the evening. So that's why I'm late. So I get a pass for that, right? I'm not just being late because I'm a douche or I'm sleeping or I do have to admit I almost blew everybody off because I started watching the show Metal Lords. That's pretty funny, and I didn't want to turn it off, so I tried to watch as much as possible. Well, here I am, and where are we all checking in from today? Obviously, we've got Korea here in the house. That's me. Where is everybody else? Do your sound off thing so we can figure out where we're all from right now. Let me pull down the mic a little bit. Oh, well, let me turn off the noisemaker on my phone. There we go. All right. So here we are. We've got some Great Britain in the house, some Ontario, Tel Aviv. Welcome, Rabbi Runst. Yeah, I haven't started drinking yet. Well, I have a little bit, but not enough to not pronounce Rabbi Rubenstein. There we go. Pennsylvania, College Station, Texas, New York, Washington State in the house, Rhode Island, the littlest of them all, Florida. Where we got here? Yep, we've got all the Netherlands. We got the Netherlands peeps in the house. All right, UK. All right, you randos. We got a bunch of randos here in the house. That's great because we are all randos. Some California, Sweden. Always good to have our European bros and sisters out there. All right, let me just quickly finish making my drink. What I'm doing tonight is I'm just doing a straight up Irish whiskey highball. Got my Irish whiskey and some ginger ale and some lime juice, and that's what we're going to be doing today because it's Friday night here, and I decided to spend it with you all rather than going out, so I have to make up for the loss, and I will be going out the next couple days. We've got Canada in the house, California. We've got everybody here from South Africa. Sweet. And the Atchafalaya swamps. Woohoo! Go rock on Atchafalaya. Sweet. Winnipeg. Got Winnipeg. Hey, sup, Peg? All right. Thank you all for coming back. If all of you are here for part 2, I hope you've seen part 1. We're not going to do a lot of a review on that. We're not going to cover a lot of ground that we've already covered. So we're just kind of going to jump into it today because we got a lot of elderflower and soda water fans and Pringles. Elderflower water, soda water, add in splash of vodka or some good gin, and that is a perfect drink, Georgina. But it's early where some people are. We've got the Johnny Depp Mega Pint Cup, which is the official Legal Vices Pimp Cup, and that's what we're into tonight. Cheers, y'all. What's up, Missouri, Arizona, Texas, Denver, North Carolina. Okay, that's a good one. All righty. Well, again, this is a sensitive topic. We're going to be talking about some graphic details. We're going to be hitting some hard. So hitting some things hard. So if guns freak you out, if gun discussions freak you out, if you're triggered by talking about the senseless, bloody, murderous deaths of 19 children and 2 teachers. If that's not something you can handle, you best move along. But I think you've all read the video title, and I think you're all here for it. So welcome to the 118 of you that are here already. That's a great way to start. And an update on things as they stand here. Yesterday, I shot for 21,200 people when I woke up this morning. We had that number. We've got 21,250 subscribers, 205 subscribers right now. And we've got 116 people watching and 62 likes. Let's like the shit out of this video. Let's get the word out. Let's grow this channel together. You guys are in from the ground floor. You're my fam. You're my supporters. We need to get the word out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification button, tell other people about it, post it to your Twitters, post it to wherever the hell you post things to. And let's see how big we can get this channel today. Let's just get 100 new subscribers. That's a ridiculous number of subscribers to get in one day. So if any of you haven't subscribed, head on over there, just reach down and click that subscribe button. We're at 21,205 right now. It would be super, super awesome if we get to 21,300 just for the hell of it. Again, I appreciate every like. I appreciate every subscribe. The comments on the videos are great. And to those of you that decide that for whatever reason you want to throw your hard-earned money at me by way of super chats and super stickers and super licenses, I am deeply, deeply grateful for you. And again, I try to monitor the chat as much as I can, especially on serious topics like this, but it's not that easy all the time. And if there's something that you really want to get out, if there's a question you have, there's a statement you want to make, the best way to do that is through super chats, because that flashes up in big bright colors and I see them and I can flag them and I can get around to them when I have time. Mods are here. Thanks, mods. You guys rock. The mods keep everybody together. Give the shout outs to the mods, and a shout out to all of you that are here. Now, with that having been said, let's discuss a little bit about where we've been and where we're going. Yesterday, we went through the timeline of events that led up to this horrific thing. And what we came away with from the official timeline is that 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds this ordeal lasted. 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds. For 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds, the police, the school board police, the local police, the border patrol, and whoever else the fuck was there, the firefighters, sorry about that, firefighters, if there's any firefighters out there. Nobody went in, nobody did anything, but of course we can't expect the firefighters to go in because that's not their job. The special tactics, nobody went in, nobody did anything. Why? Because the commander in charge of the scene, this Arredondo chap, he was a fucktwit. He was a cowardly man, and I've already sworn once. Dang it, I was trying to go the whole day without swearing. It's hard to do. I'm trying to curb my language. Surprisingly, with all of the negative language, all of the curse words we had yesterday, YouTube didn't knock the monetization down. So apparently I somehow managed to talk about guns, murdering children, and swear a lot, and kept full monetization. So, all right. Again, 1 hour, 14 minutes, 8 seconds. This Arredondo fallow did nothing. He was in there from about, if I recall correctly, he was there just a few minutes after the gunman went in the school. And for the next 1 hour plus, he did not a goddamn thing to stop this. It was roughly an hour after this started, when he thought, hey, why don't we put a sniper over there so he can shoot through the window maybe. He spent 30 fucking minutes. Dang it, I did it again. He spent 30 minutes looking for a set of master keys to open the door. He said in the beginning, they have it covered. They have a breaching tool. The hooligan, the halligan, whatever the fuck he wants to whatever he wants to call it, they have it. So they sat around, they had breaching tools. And within a few minutes, they had up to 19 officers with arms, pistols, rifles, body armor. They had 19 people on scene in the school building within minutes, and they didn't do a thing for 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds, during which time 19 little children were shot and murdered. 2 teachers were shot and murdered. One of the police officers, his wife was in there. His wife called him and said that she had been shot and presumably that she's bleeding out and she needs help and please come and save us. The officer did what any human would do. He says, screw this, I'm going in. He attempted to go in, but the other officers detained him. They detained him. They took away his gun. They led him off scene. They prevented this man physically from going in and saving his wife who had been shot. And then they continued to do nothing. They were afraid that the shooter would shoot through the door at them. They've got the body armor. They've got the entry tools. And they spent their time huddling around, wondering what the hell to do. They had 4 bulletproof shields that they could have used to assist them to go in. Did they use them? No. Did they do anything? No. There's just repeated statements from the police chief, this Arredondo, saying, hey, I need the master keys. We need the master keys. The doors are locked. We got to go in. We need the keys. We need some fucking keys to work. Those were his words. That doesn't count as a swear because he used the word fucking. And we need to go in. And then it turns out the door wasn't even locked. He spent 30 minutes looking for a set of master keys and trying them on doors. And the door where the shooter was not even locked. Because it was a children's room, it was impossible to lock from the inside. I guess they didn't want the little students to be locking themselves in and locking the teacher out. So those doors were physically impossible to lock from the inside. The door was not locked. In an hour and 14 minutes and 8 seconds, nobody bothered to even ask if the door was locked. Nobody was told to ask if the doors could be locked. Nobody was told anything about this situation. Nobody was given any orders to go in. Nobody did anything. Finally, and there was the state protective services guys. One of their agents was on scene. He was the only one and this was 30, 40 minutes after it went down. Are there children in there? And the answer was, what? Are there children in there? That's yet to be determined. And he said, well, if there's kids in there, we got to go in there. And then there was a rumor amongst the law enforcement officers that the police chief may have been in the room and maybe like an undercover hostage. And again, the protective services guy says that, hey, we need to go in. If it's a hostage rescue, we need to go in. And then about an hour after all this starts to go down, that's when the police chief, who's still looking for the master keys, by the way, tries to communicate with this guy who is murdering 11 children. 19 children and 2 teachers in English and Spanish. No response. Go figure. And finally, they get another set of breaching tools. And they go in. This coward of a police chief, this Arredondo feller, he put the lives of children aside. He even said, we're not, people are going to wonder why we're taking so long. He said, because we're trying to save whatever lives we can. Meanwhile, the guy is murdering 19 children. While this guy is sitting on his thumb, making up bullshit stories, looking for master keys that are unnecessary. And then he also said, the police chief, the ranking officer, the highest ranking person on site said, I didn't know I was in charge. But from the beginning, all the body cam footage, all the other communications they have records of, everybody else knew he was in charge. He didn't know he was in charge. He said he thought someone else had taken charge. And that's not how you take command from someone. That's not how you go off duty or go. It's a communication. Someone says, okay, I'm here. I am now taking over from you. You have a communication. That never happened. That is a complete lie. That is a complete bullshit story. And my understanding was he was just elected to this position a couple of weeks before this happened. This big, dumpy, lardy, fat fucker. And if I'm calling you fat, you're fat. So yeah, he was a fat old dude that he was clearly incompetent. He was clearly unable to take command of the situation. He was clearly a coward. He gave 0 orders for anybody to do anything useful the entire time. Then he says, oh, someone else was in command. I didn't think it was me, which is an absolute lie. And then they have these town council meetings, these town council meetings, and he doesn't have the balls to show up. He doesn't have the balls to show up to the town council meeting. And then but somehow he has the balls to ask for a leave of absence and an excuse to not attend the council meetings for the foreseeable future. He has the balls to ask for that after. So we went through this timeline of events yesterday and laid out minute by minute what happened, second by second in some cases. And if you go back and watch part one of this, if you haven't already done that, I purposely explained the timeline in exactly as long as it took for this situation to go down. My explanation of the timeline lasts about an hour and 14 minutes, give or take a couple of minutes. So if you go back and you watch that from the start to the time when I say that they breached the door and took out the shooter, that was how long they dicked around. They wanked off in the corner somewhere with each other, did some sort of police officer circle jerk, and a good portion of the police that on site were assigned crowd control. Can you imagine for that hour and 14 minutes and 8 seconds what those little tiny kids were thinking in that? Where's daddy? Where's the police officer? How come nobody's helping us? They've watched 19 of their classmates and friends being shot and murdered in front of them. They watched their teachers get shot and killed. The teachers watched their children shot and killed. The parents outside. Well, meanwhile, the police officers saying, we don't know if there's kids in there. Well, little Billy's not standing right next to me. They're in there. The parents aren't allowed to go in. One brave mother managed to break through the police and run into the school and rescue her child. Good for her. Nobody did anything. It's disgraceful. It's disgusting. It's dishonorable. And somebody, if not several somebodies, need to be punished and go down hard for this. What I mentioned yesterday also, the Parkland shooter. During that situation, there was one police officer, one security guy who ran out and hid behind a rock. And he was pilloried. He's going through his own legal issues right now. That is understandable. One security guard versus one shooter. One guy with a pistol and one guy with a rifle shooting up. I can see being a little concerned. I can sympathize with that guy to a certain extent. But when you have 19 officers all with sidearms, all with pistols, some of them have rifles, they have body armor, they're standing in the hallway of the school and they do nothing. He's outnumbered at least 19-1. And as the head of the Texas folks, the protective services people said, the guy was armed. The children weren't. The police were armed better than the guy. The police had body armor. The kids didn't. The policeman had training. The shooter didn't. But they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing to stop this. And then, as I just said, the guy doesn't have the balls to show his face in public and explain himself. There has to be, again, I know nothing about Texas law. There has to be some criminal punishment for him and possibly a bunch of other people. Dereliction of duty, occupational negligence. There's got to be something that you can do with this guy. This guy needs to be punished for the sick, cowardly dog that he is. It's incredibly shameful. So today, where we want to start. Today we want to start with an article that was written by the FBI agent. The FBI agent that created the mass shooting protocol. We're going to get her comments on this situation. Again, she is the FBI agent that created the mass shooter protocols. Again, this is an incredibly emotional thing. This is an incredibly serious topic. And I don't want to be political about it. I just want to call them as I see them. I don't give a shit what your stand is on gun control. I don't give a shit if you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care about any of that. I just want answers. I want to focus on what this clown, what this coward, and the people under him and the people that are related to him did or did not do during this event. Britt Cormier, thank you so much for that generous donation to start us off here on this very serious topic. This is why you should never depend on the police to save your life in a crisis. Also, I love how my more left friends always say, you can always call the police, but then also said, we need to defund the police. Oh, yeah, that's a thing. Again, without getting political, it's going to be damn hard. I got to walk a thin line here. You have the people that are calling for defunding the police, the people that are saying, F the police, the people that are saying all the police, they're the ones that as soon as shit goes down, they call the police and then they complain that the police don't show up and help them. Can't have it both ways, people. And as I mentioned yesterday, it's what Dana White from the UFC says, don't leave it up to the judges. Your primary safety is your responsibility. You are primarily responsible for your own safety. How long is it going to take for the police to come if you call them? These people in this classroom, this guy crashed his car in front of the school, and within 20 seconds, teachers in the school had called 911 and said there's a guy with a gun coming towards the school. Within 20 seconds, they had reported this to the police. The police showed up in a matter of minutes. They were there minutes later. And they did not a damn thing for 1 hour and 11 minutes after they got there. As the guy in charge for all of the public safety for Texas said, they could have ended this after 3 minutes. Again, there's fantastic police officers out there. The vast majority of them are fine, upstanding, great people. This guy, this Arredondo fellow, is not one of them. He doesn't deserve to do anything. He's concerned about his officers. And again, the police do not have a duty. They're not required to go out and get killed. I'll give them that. That's why, they don't rush off into burning buildings. They're not required to go into burning buildings. They're not required to jump into water after people that are drowning. They're not required to endanger themselves to protect others. But they do have a duty to stop crime. They do have a duty to protect and serve people. And at some point, you have to think, holy shit, there's children. There's tiny, helpless little children who are being murdered in that room. There's 19 of us, one of him. Maybe some of us are going to take a round. Maybe some of us aren't going to make it. But we got to stop him. I don't know what I would do, but I'm pretty sure that I would either be dead or physically restrained if my child was in there. I can't imagine just standing there and doing nothing. There was a police officer, as I said, whose wife was shot and on the phone talking to him. There's another police officer that had a child in that room. And I haven't been able to find anything about what he did or what was done with him. But if he stood around trying to do nothing, I just can't comprehend that. Let's get into this article before we get too far off track. Let's see if we can make this any bigger. The creator of the FBI mass shooting protocol is shocked by the Uvalde police response. Let's go big. There we go. Well, that's a professional looking group of people. Look at all that weaponry and not doing a damn thing with it. Well, I was following the shooting, so every day new information surfaces about how law enforcement responded to the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. That left, again, 19. Don't say 19 students, because a student can be up to 18 years old. And I mean, it's, somehow it's worse to me. It's 19 tiny little children. 19 very, very young children and 2 teachers dead. Critics have pointed out failures at nearly every step of the response. The school's resource officer drove by the shooter as he crouched between cars. Police waited more than an hour to head into the classroom while the gunman was inside. And the chief of police showed up without his radio. Oh, yeah, that was nothing. He was looking for a landline as well, so he could talk to his dispatchers on a damn landline. Yeah, I forgot about that bit. Ugh. So yeah, the police chief, the chief of the goddamn police forgot his radio. Forgot about that. Showed up without his radio and stopped treating the incident as an active shooter situation. He was handling it as a hostage situation. He was trying to contact this guy allegedly. There's no record of him trying to contact the guy for at least an hour, but they were handling it as a hostage situation where everybody, I guess, just holds in place and does fuck all while children are being murdered. And to say he wasn't handling it as an active shooter situation is correct. If you look at the timeline released by the police, which we went over yesterday, even an hour into this, there's saying the 4 more shots are fired, 1 more shot's fired. This is ongoing continuously. Even the police officer says he's shooting like crazy, but he doesn't treat it as an active shooter situation. Catherine Schweit, we'll just call her, is a former FBI special agent and created the agency's active shooter program after the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012. She's also the author of the book Stop the Killing: How to End the Mass Shooting Crisis. She joined NPR's All Things Considered to give her perspective on the law enforcement response in Uvalde and share strategies for students and teachers to better their odds of surviving a mass shooting. The interview has been lightly edited for length and clarity. Sarah, get a comment here from Sarah. Sarah, I live in South Texas and the response is infuriating. It's their job to be in harm's way. How do they sleep at night knowing they did nothing? The trauma those kids have to live with now. Exactly. While they don't have a duty to get themselves killed, there comes a point when you just can't look at yourself in the mirror knowing you did nothing. Your job is to be in harm's way. That's why you sign up. That's what you sign up for. It's again, like, the people that sign up for the military, ROTC and whatnot, because they want the college benefits. But then suddenly when a war happens, they go, well, wait a minute, I didn't sign up to go to war. You joined the goddamn military. You knew that was an option. You joined the police force because you know every day your life is going to be on the line. And then to do nothing when it's your time to stand up and do what you're being paid for, that's a travesty. That's a horrible, horrible thing. Here's the interview highlights on her reaction to how the police on the scene reacted. So I'm reacting to the reaction of how they reacted. You know, I'm going to tell you the truth, she says. I was shocked. And at first it was disbelief. I was like, they can't possibly have had this situation happen there. They're not the first law enforcement community that has had some trip ups and some challenges in responding to things since I've been working on this. But this was just so challenging to see it unfold and right in front of our eyes, that the law enforcement was there for an hour on the other side of a wall is just unheard of. I couldn't have written this if I'd written a script. People would have said they wouldn't believe it. And that is one thing they were saying. They were saying, skeleton, thank you so much, Scale. Meanwhile, news stories and activist/opportunistic legislation circling this event in mainstream are pushing more gun seizure laws and anti-concealed carry laws. This is why I utilize my Second Amendment rights. And I'll tell you, that's something that you should do. If you have the right, use it. Use it or lose it. And there's the judgment, the Supreme Court ruling that just came down in New York, getting rid of a 100-year law that infringed on people's rights to bear arms. But again, this is Texas. There's a lot of armed people in Texas. But to a certain point, you can understand. This is a small town. This is a small town. They've never had something like this happen there before. But there are, as I said yesterday, there are no small towns anymore. Bad stuff happens in every town. You have to be prepared. You have to train for these things. You have to, no matter how small your community is, no matter how small your community is, you have to prepare. You have to be ready when something like this happens. You have to have the protocols in place. You have to have the chain of command in place. You have to have the response teams ready and available. On what an ideal response would have been according to the active shooter program that she designed. Let me qualify this a little bit and just say the law enforcement training that the FBI is pushing out and has pushed out for years requires that when there is active shooting underway, even if it's a single officer, you must pursue to the sound of the shooting or where you believe the shooter is. You have to, even if you're alone, you have to go towards the danger. That is their job. Their job isn't necessarily to do something foolish and get killed, but their job is to go toward the danger. You must pursue all the way to the shooter and neutralize the shooter. That's it. That's your duty. You have to you have to run to the sound of the gunfire. You have to engage the shooter and attempt to neutralize the shooter. That is the lone objective. That is the lone objective. I like the way she says that. That is the only purpose that those 19 officers had at that point in time. That's the only duty that everyone had there, even the ones outside. That is their duty. Their lone objective is to go towards and neutralize the shooter. They did not do that. They did nothing. Nothing. I can't stress enough that they did nothing. He spends minutes looking for a landline to talk to his dispatch. He spends 30 minutes looking for a set of damn master keys. He wastes time waiting for breaching tools, but he said at the beginning he already had breaching tools. And the damn door isn't locked. You don't need a breaching tool. You don't need keys. And he was complaining that they were worried that the walls were thin. And if they start shooting, the bullets will come through the walls. Well, guess what, pal? Bullets work two ways. And it wasn't in a cave. There are windows outside. It was more than an hour later that he suggested putting a sniper across the way through the window. That is the lone objective, and that you should never waver from that. You should never waver from that lone objective. A law enforcement officer, if they're trained, should continue moving forward, even if it means bursting through a door, shooting through a door. I recognize the risks that are going through their heads. Oh my gosh, there's children in that classroom. I don't want to hurt a child. I don't want to. But we need to pursue, because the shooters have already proven that they're willing to kill people. And they'll continue doing it. God bless this woman. I love this woman. This is a based woman, an unbreaded woman with balls 10 times the size of the fat fuck that let this thing happen. That is your only objective, to pursue. And she says it very, very precisely, very eloquently, because the shooter has already proven that he's willing to kill people and continue doing it. Just let that stand there. That's the only statement you need about this entire incident. Well, if he goes in, maybe he'll shoot more children. He's already shot 19. You know, he's going to shoot more. He's proven that. You go through the door. He's coming for you. You got to be faster. Or someone outside can distract him. Or you can distract him at the door and someone from outside can take him out through the window. There are options, and that is your job. Pursue, pursue, pursue. That is why the priority is you keep moving forward, even if it means you go through walls, and if you go through windows, and if you go through doors. This woman knows her shit. She designed and developed this protocol. Now, this statement on why she says we need to train children to flee first rather than hide, that is the point. That is my point. That is what I have been saying since freaking Columbine. This is it. This is my point. Let's see what she says, and then I'll give you my comments. Of course, she's like way more knowledgeable than me, but hey, whatever. When I was working with then Vice President Biden's team after the Sandy Hook shooting to look for solutions, one of the decisions that we made as a group, all the federal agencies said, run, hide, fight, is what people do in a shooting. Those are the three things: run, hide, or fight. And run, hide, fight teaches us to do the run part first. Run first. What we're teaching kids in school is the hide part, but we're not teaching the run part. We don't do that anyplace else in society. We don't tell kids in a mall, okay, just hide. Whatever's going on, hide under the bench at the Starbucks kiosk. So somehow when it comes to schools, we've missed an opportunity to teach children and teach adults in school that they need to run. That's the first thing they need to do. They need to escape. I cannot agree with her more. There's nothing that I agree with more than this situation. Run, get out, zigzag, man, zigzag. Got to run that zigzag pattern. Don't be a standing target. Don't be a cowering target. Don't be a sitting duck. Don't be a fucking fish in a barrel. It continues here. If it's your only response, if you have no other choice, then you know your next response should be fight. Fight the shooter as long and hard as you can. I know so many heroic stories about people who fought or ran. There were little kids who escaped from the Sandy Hook Elementary School because their teacher stepped up, stood in the way of the shooter, and they escaped out a side door. Those are the heroes. The people that put themselves between the shooter and the children. Teachers don't sign up for that shit. Teachers don't stand up to get shot and killed protecting their students, but they do it. And what do these miserable excuses for human beings do? Nothing for an hour and 14 minutes and 8 seconds. They did nothing. And the FBI, even just in recent years, released new training that says escape. Your first priority has to be to escape. You just can't be killed if you're not there. How based is that statement? If you're not there, you can't be shot. You might be shot running away, true, but there's a much greater chance you're going to be shot hiding under the protection of a desk or a chair, doing nothing, hiding and cowering. Children need to be taught to run. She didn't mention the reason that I object to this. And again, we talked about this a little bit last time. Dave Chappelle, in one of his recent comedy bits, did a thing that he emphasized exactly what I feel about like this, saying that these shooter drills do nothing but scare the shit out of kids. These shooter drills do nothing but make the children hide and cower and be afraid and terrified of what's going to happen. It puts them in fear. It makes them react in a way of fear. Hiding is a fear-based situation. When you hide, you're hiding out of fear. We're teaching our children to be afraid. And what are we doing? In these schools, we're going through the active shooter drills where the children are given instructions. Okay, if there is a shooter, go here, go to this location and hide. The vast majority of these school shootings happen by people attending that school who've been bullied or they're just nuts or whatever the hell, but they're usually students who went to that school and they attended those meetings. They attended the active shooter drills. So when you have these active shooter drills and you tell the children where to go, you're also telling one of the kids is going to go crazy and shoot the place up where to find the victims. That's why I am wholly and aggressively against these active shooter drills. The active shooter drills should be teaching, as ridiculous and horrific as this sounds, should be teaching children where the nearest exit is and how to run. How to run in zigzag patterns, how to run off, just don't run in a straight line. Move, weave, bob, zigzag, get off the property, get behind something, far away. Not tell the shooter, okay, when you're ready to go nuts and shoot this place up, we'll all be over here in this room. That is stupid to me. That is stupid. On what she has told her own daughter, a grade school teacher. I do talk to her. So she's talked to her daughter, who's a teacher. I do talk to her about these kinds of things all the time because she's my baby. I'm always going to be worried about her. And if I can empower her with a conversation, and that includes letting her kids run out of their schoolroom, even if the district doesn't teach that. Let's read that again. If I can empower her with a conversation, and that includes letting her children run out of the schoolroom, even if the district doesn't teach that. Yeah, you might get fired for not following policy, but you're going to have a lot more live students than the ones who teach them to hide in the rooms. It may cost you your job, but you'll have less lives under your belt. One thing that I think people don't recognize is how much control they have. They have so much control. Find out what your school is teaching. Talk to your kids about what they're learning. Talk to them about their safety. You talk to them about stranger danger and stop, drop, and roll. Own safety in a country right now where we're dealing with gun violence. You should. That's the end of the article. That is a brilliant, brilliant interview. And you can go to NPR, to the site, look this up, and listen to the interview in its entirety. This is a solid woman. She needs to be listened to. She developed this program. Everything she talks about was not done. The children were hiding. They were taught to hide. The pursue, and neutralize policy was so far from being followed that it's utterly, utterly incomprehensible. It's kind of a rant here, and I know it's kind of a rant, but again, I feel strongly about this. We need to train teachers. We need to train teachers. I don't know if we need to arm teachers, but I personally have no adverse opinions about arming teachers. Well, what if the teacher gets angry at a student and shoots them? What if a student takes the... What if? But what if the teacher stops somebody? If that's the thing. If you are armed and well trained, I've got no problem with it. If it's some teacher who doesn't like guns, isn't comfortable with guns, is afraid of guns, doesn't know how to use a gun, doesn't want to use a gun, don't give them one. Those are the last people you want to have the firearm. I my my ex-wife, I mean, that's just what we do in Utah. We go shooting all the time. And that was one of the first things we did is took her shooting. And it's interesting. She being Korean, there's just no such thing as guns here, really. And she's never been exposed to one. She knew nothing about guns. And she did not like my semi-automatic pistol. She didn't like it. She said there was too many moving parts. She was afraid of it. She wouldn't use it. And she didn't like it. So I let her use this awesome 38 special revolver that I have. She loved that thing. She loved the revolver. It was simple. It was easy for her to use, easy for her to control, and she was damn good with it. So there might be a firearm out there for everybody. I don't know. Maybe you just have a thing against it and you just don't want to do it. But some guns are scary to some people. Others aren't. We need to do something to protect the children. And there was a huge uprising when the taser people said that they could put taser drones in the classroom. That sounds like a pretty good idea to me. I mean, if you can have a remotely controlled drone in a classroom somewhere that can tase someone, why not? What the hell? Ember Fox, are you a Mormon? Yeah, ish. Ish. Not sure what that has to do with the issue at hand, but Nicholas Cruz, nice Napster deal, by the way. That's pretty awesome. Says no. Tech is always faulty as fuck. But is faulty tech better than no tech? Is faulty tech better than nothing? Yeah. Utah has Mormons. Yeah, one or two. Yeah, see, this is the thing. Yvonne De Silva here says, pro anti-guns, it's a difficult talk in my humble opinion, and it depends on the environment. Might be fine in the US, not so fine in Europe, for example. Yeah, it's not something. I mean, people have their minds made up, and it's very, very difficult, often fruitless to even try. But I'm coming at you from someone who is a full supporter of the right to bear arms, the full supporter of protect yourself, your right to carry. And I'm so happy that Utah just recently went to a constitutional carry where you have a constitutional right to carry a concealed weapon. That's where I'm coming from. And so, you use that in your judgment of me, but I won't back away from that. Because as we see here, yes, a lot of times, the majority of times, police officers will do their jobs. But what about that one time they don't? And that's what they always say. You always need something. You don't need something. You don't need a gun. You don't need you don't need pepper spray. You don't need until you do. That's the point. As a motorcycle rider, I don't need a helmet. I don't need leathers. I don't need gloves. I don't need steel-toed boots until I do. That's why the motorcycle community has the saying, all the gear, all the time. Because as they say, there's two kinds of motorcycle riders, the ones that have had accidents and the ones that will have accidents. That's where it is. And that's the same thing with it. You don't need a gun. A teacher does not need a gun in the classroom. A student at a university doesn't need to carry a gun until they do. And again, maybe it sounds a little cliche, but for me, I would rather be prosecuted than dead. I guess we can get rid of get rid of this article now. But yeah, that's where I sit on this, and I completely agree with everything she said. The children need to be trained to run. That's it. Get out of the school, get as far away from the school, and protect yourself. Now, let's move on to this other article here. This is another article. This is a big article. This is a long article, but it's a very detailed and very specific, and I think probably the best, if not the best article that's been written about this situation so far. And we'll get into that. And so while I'm pulling this up, if you haven't already liked this video, we've got 261 likes here. The goal, as always, is to get to 600 likes before the end of the show. Someday we need to bump that up to 1,000, but let's hit 600 likes. We're about halfway there. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel if there's anything interesting here. If you find anything interesting that we're saying, let's clear a couple. I have 2 of these super chats that I haven't cleared yet. Let's get those out of the way. Amber Fox, love the show. Thank you so much. And I love your donation. And that is a gorgeous dog. Wow. Love the show. Charge these cowards and the evil sickos jabbing people with poison. Thanks for all you do. Well, charge these cowards. We'll leave the jabbing issue to another day and another time. But hey, we're all about expressing opinions here. Leslie Tonkin, thank you for your donation. That is deeply, deeply appreciated, as are all donations that are received. I don't expect it, but I certainly do appreciate it. Leslie Tonkin says, I am a teacher and we do Alice training to learn how to block our doors and hands-on. My plan is shove them out windows, shove a cheap wedge under the door. Yeah, to prevent the door from opening. You block the door, get the kids out. Hey, that makes sense, doesn't it? Don't teach them to cower in the corner, hide in the dark places. This is so disgusting to me. How can they live with themselves? I just don't understand how they can live with themselves. Shame on everybody involved. And I hope the people that were in charge of making decisions suffer severe consequences as a result of this. All right. I'm not saying this to start an argument. I'm just making an observation here. Disinfection says, still funny to see Americans hanging onto their weapons so desperately. Europe doesn't have that problem as far as I know. That's true, but there's still mass murders in places. There's still mass stabbings. There's, people that are evil will find a way to kill if they want to kill. There's acid attacks. There's the gas. Japan doesn't have weapons, but they've had the gas attacks in the subways. If someone is insane and wants to kill, they will find a way. And I have the right to protect myself. So I'm not saying that to say which system is better, which is not. I like my options, and when I'm in the States, I use my options. That's all I'm going to say about that. And again, counter opinions are very welcome here. I don't censor the chat unless my mods are convinced that there's someone who's just being an ass for the purpose of being an ass. I welcome conflicting views. I really, really do. And if you do have a counter view that you really want me to pay attention to and you want to make sure, just send me a super chat and we'll get to that. All right, let's bring this up. Let's bring up the next article. Where do we go? Records show. That's what we need. Yep, that's the one we need. And this is the picture I used for my thumbnail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rifles. All people wearing body armor. All people behind these ballistic shields, these bulletproof shields, and they're just standing around at the damn end of the hallway doing nothing. They stood there and did nothing. while 19 little children were murdered by this sick fuck just down the hallway from where they're standing. This is from the Texas Tribune. I like this article. It's long, but it's detailed. If there's kids in there, we need to go in. That was one of the public safety officers. Officers in Uvalde were ready with guns, shields, and tools, but not clear orders. Juan, they were inside the building. Yes, they were inside the building less than 3 minutes after the shooter was in the building. They were in the building less than 3 minutes after the shooter was in the building. They did nothing for an hour and 11 minutes. They stood there in the hallway with their thumbs up their asses, armed like that, 19 of them, and did nothing. Nothing. Think about that. The Texas Tribune has reviewed law enforcement transcripts and footage that federal and state investigators are examining after the May 24th tragedy. The officers in the hallway of Robb Elementary wanted to go inside classrooms 111 and 112 immediately. One officer's daughter was inside. Another officer had gotten a call from his wife, a teacher, who told him she was bleeding to death. And again, that's the one that wanted to go in. He made a motion, he made a move to go down that hallway, and he was detained. His weapon was taken from him, and he was escorted off of the scene, knowing his wife was bleeding to death in a classroom down the hall. 2 closed doors and a wall stood between them and an 18-year-old with an AR-15 who had opened fire on children and teachers inside the connected classrooms. A Halligan bar, an axe-like forcible entry tool used by firefighters to get through locked doors, was available. Ballistic shields were arriving on the scene. So was plenty of firepower, including at least 2 rifles. Some officers were itching to move. One such officer, a special agent at the Texas Department of Public Safety, had arrived around 20 minutes after the shooting. He immediately asked, "Are there kids in the classroom?" "If there is, then they just need to go in," the agent said. And the officer answered, "It's unknown at this time." 20 minutes after this has gone down, the officer has said it's unknown whether there's children in there. Forget the fucking fact another guy had just been on the phone with his dying wife who was saying she was shot. And there's a bunch of people outside the school saying, little Billy ain't here next to me. Little Billy's in there. This whole, I don't know if there's children in there that time. Whoever that officer is needs to be found, identified, and punished, if not just have the shit kicked out of him by everybody. I don't believe that for a second. That is the fucking stupidest statement I've ever heard. The agent shot back, "You all don't know if there's kids in there?" He added, "If there's kids in there, we need to go in there." "Whoever's in charge will determine that," came the reply. Who was in charge was this Arredondo guy, the police chief, who forgot to bring his own fucking radio to the scene. The police chief forgot to bring his own radio. He was trying to call dispatch from a landline in the school. That's the guy that's in charge. And this is also the guy in charge that everybody said, "Oh yeah, this is the PD's jurisdiction. They've got this. He's the guy in charge." He's the one that was saying, "I didn't know I was in charge." Dumbass. Seriously, that is insane. I wish there was a better word to use, but I don't know what it is. There's no word to describe how fucked up this is. So yeah, it's like, if we need to go in there, well, whoever's in charge will determine that. The inaction appeared too much for the special agent. He noted that there were still children in other classrooms within the school who needed to be evacuated. There's still children in other rooms. They hadn't cleared out the other rooms. They're all hiding in place and not running like they should, like we were just talking about. Well, there's kids over here, he said. So I'm getting kids out. Nobody else was doing anything except for this guy. I mean, they've had children in other rooms where they know the shooter's not for 20 minutes and they didn't do a damn thing to get those kids out. Like, so we have not only the kids in the room, where's mommy, where's daddy, where's the police officer, where's the teachers, where's somebody, help me, help me, help me. We've got kids in other rooms going, holy shit, is this guy coming for us next? And the police are doing nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, however many children died more than 3 minutes after the shooting started, this police chief is responsible for every last one of them. Every last one of them. He is personally responsible for, because he did nothing. Kyle Mitchell, thank you very much for the donation. My high school is very small, 3 towns combined for classes of 20 to 40, and had a school shooting in 2006. Shooter entered the school with shotgun visible. Janitor disarmed him immediately and went outside to unload the shotgun. Proactive. That's it. You've got to be proactive. Thank you for that comment, and thank you for the donation. It is much, much appreciated. Your insight is also appreciated. The exchange happened early in the excruciating 77 minutes on May 24th that started when Salvador Ramos, who had just shot his grandmother in the face, let's not forget that, he shot his grandmother in the face before he went to the school, and his grandmother, if I recall correctly, called the police before she died. He shot his grandmother in the face, walked through an unlocked door of Robb Elementary, encountering no interference as he wielded an AR-15 he had bought 8 days earlier. At the end of those 77 minutes, 19 students, including the daughter of one of the officers stationed in the hallway, and 2 teachers were dead or dying. Others sustained serious physical injuries. The emotional and psychological ones will last for life. It was the deadliest school shooting in Texas history. Think about that. Again, we have the guy that tried to go in to save his wife, who said she was bleeding to death. His weapon was taken. He was detained and escorted off the site. There's a dude standing in the hallway whose child was one of the ones that were murdered. I want to find out what he was doing. It's just pure morbid curiosity on my part, because I can't conceive of how you could stand there in the hallway listening to gunshots as children die, knowing that your child is in that room, knowing you have a gun, knowing you're surrounded by at least 19 other guns, and you do nothing. I want to think that something happened to this guy too. I want to think that he tried to do something and was prevented physically, or I want to believe that, because I can't believe he would just sit there and go, my child is probably dying, which was the case, but I'm just going to sit here and wait for someone to give me the okay to go in. Fuck that. If he did that, as a police officer, maybe he was doing his job correctly, but as a father, as a man, I hope that sits on your conscience every day of your life. Your child is dead because you did nothing to save and protect them, unless he was physically somehow heroically prevented from going in by the efforts of others. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Disinfection. Thank you very, very, very much for this donation. It's muchly appreciated. One thing to consider, another thing to consider, look into, is for the media to stop doing in-depth analysis on who was the shooter and why they did it. It sets a precedence that if you shoot people, you get publicity. That is correct. I agree with that. I agree with that. And I was thinking that when when I was in robot reading mode and I read the guy's name, I regretted it instantly because I'm very much in that camp of people that say the shooters should never be named. Don't give them the honor of being named. That's why a lot of them do it. Hey, I'm going to be famous today. Watch the news. You're going to see me. Those things have been said before. I completely agree with that. And thank you for that comment. The shooters, the people that do these horrific things should not be named. They should die in absolute anonymity, ignorance, and disdain. Salty Rules, thank you. Thank you for the euros. I sent you a link on Odyssey on your Gmail. I really wanted your input on this. It could have been a false flag. Will you look at that? You're fantastic. Not sure which email that was. Let me check real quickly here. If it's the one I think it is, uh, there's one email I got, which I don't know if it was yours, but something. What is it going to be a hoax? And there was a link to an insane video. If that was yours, yeah, nah, ain't gonna happen. I'm not. I don't have another. I don't have another story about that in my email. Maybe it got misplaced somewhere along the email chain. The only email I got regarding this particular incident was someone saying that maybe it was a hoax and sending me to some video where some guy was trying to show how this was a hoax and it was paid actors and shit like that, which is insane. I think it's an ignorant statement and it's not even worth considering. And I hope that wasn't yours. So yeah, no, I don't. Back to the statement. Sorry. The part 2 shooter also had an unseen pistol. Principal disarmed student, but was shot in the process and later died. Student then restrained shooter till help arrived. 3 untrained, unequipped individuals saved lives. Lives were saved. Lives were lost, but that saved probably many, many other lives. Those are the heroes, not the people that sit around and do nothing while their child is being murdered in the room. Again, I don't know which one that was. Scrolling back through the chat here to see if you've clarified which one it was. Yeah, not seeing anything here. Trying to catch up. Thank you. Okay, maybe that was yours. Yeah, but no. That the video that was linked to the one saying how this was all fake and they were paid actors and stuff was insane. I mean, it was just stupid. You know, ugh. That's not even something that I'm even going to entertain. Sorry. Skeleton, thank you so much for the donation. Following up from your prior comment on not giving fame or infamy to psychopaths, I think you'd enjoy the vid take from Mr. Medicare. It was on Randy Stare. Email me that link or send that link to my Twitter. My email is thelegalvices@gmail.com, and my Twitter is thelegalvices on Twitter. Send me that. Sure, I'd be happy to look at it. So let's get back to this article here. I mean, it's sad. It's just sad and disgusting that this would happen. All right. I'm not going to name him again. 77 minutes. It was a deadly school shooting in Texas history. But during most of those 77 minutes, despite the urgent pleas from officers and parents amassed outside, officers stayed put outside rooms 111 and 112, stationed on either end of a hallway with sky blue and green walls and bulletin boards displaying children's artwork. This sick fuck fired at least 4 sets of rounds, including the initial spray of fire that likely killed many of his victims instantly. After the special agent's comment, nearly another hour passed. After the special agent said, "We need to get the children out of here," another hour passed before a tactical team from the Border Patrol. It was ultimately the Border Patrol that went in and took this sick fuck out. The Border Patrol, not the police chief, not the locals. It was the Border Patrol. It was their tactical team, their special tactics team that came in and did it. In the week since the tragedy in Uvalde, questions have swirled around the actions of police and whether some lives could have been saved if officers confronted the barricaded gunman sooner. Authorities have shared conflicting information about who is in charge, who confronted the shooter, and when. A debate over whether the locked classroom doors could be breached gave way to the discovery that they may never have been locked at all. Not that they may never have been locked at all. They were not locked at all. They just weren't. Let me check something real quick here. Yeah, so I just want to. This is bothering me that I can't find out anything about what this guy whose child died in this room was doing. The police officer was standing in the hallway, and I'm seeing nothing. All right, yeah, the shooter's dead. Yeah, they took the shooter out, so he's not going to bother anyone ever again. But yeah, I can't find anything about this guy, and it is really, really, really annoying. And I don't know why I need to know this, but it just bothers me that I know there was a police officer armed, surrounded by 19 other police officers, and his own child was dying down the hallway, and he seems to have done nothing. I can't grasp that. Let's get back to the article. The doors were never locked at all. Revelations have trickled out in the press. The New York Times has described officers' doubts about the decision to wait, breakdowns in communication and tactics, and the fact that officers held off from the confrontation even though they knew people were injured and possibly dying inside. Again, there was another thing in the timeline that came out where someone said there's a teacher in there that's been shot, and someone says, "Well, I know," and then they still do nothing. The San Antonio Express News reported that there is no evidence that officers tried the doors on room 111 and 112, contradicting a key assertion by the Uvalde Schools police chief, Pete Arredondo, who told the Texas Tribune that officers tried the doors, found them locked, and had to wait for a master key to unlock them. We've got seems as if the Roe v. Wade decision has come down. It was expected, because it leaked before. We'll have to look at the text. That's the thing for Kurt over at Uncivil Law. That's his bailiwick. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about this, and I would recommend going to him when he does his review. And so that's out there. It is what it is. It's happened. Now let's It seems like it seems like the chat has gone to Roe v. Wade, but I'm going to continue on with this because this is about people that were once alive and aren't. Why? Because this fucking police officer, this chief of police, lied. He told the news. He asserted that the doors were that the officers tried the doors, found them locked, and had to wait for a master key. He waited 30 minutes for a master key and then was complaining that the master key couldn't open the doors. That was a lie. They never tried the doors because they weren't locked. They could not have been locked from the inside. And then on Monday evening, the Austin American Statesman and KVUE TV revealed that the officers, in effect, had more than enough firepower, equipment, and motivation to breach the classroom. This is the guy here. This is Police Chief Arredondo. This is Pete. This is the fuck that let all of this happen. This is the bullshit. This is the fucker that did this. We'll talk more about him in just a minute when we finish this article. Meanwhile, at least 3 investigations by the U.S. Department of Justice, the Texas legislature, and the local district attorney, Christina Mitchell Busby, are reviewing records and interviewing witnesses to evaluate the law enforcement response. Public understanding of the response to the tragedy has been marred by refusals by state and local agencies to release public records, efforts by local officials to bar journalists from public meetings, and the closed-door nature of the hearings held by state lawmakers. They're trying to keep this quiet. They're trying to cover this bullshit up. Instead of taking the people that are responsible and crucifying them in the center of the city square, they're trying to cover this up. They're trying to keep people out. They're trying to keep the press out. They're trying to keep the citizens out. They're trying to suppress the information about this trial. The secrecy has already prompted Texas Monthly to ask, will we ever know the truth about Uvalde? This needs to be shouted from the rooftops, what has happened. These people need to be hung, drawn, and quartered, or whatever it is the law is. The law doesn't allow us to do that, so we can't do that. They deserve it, but they need to be punished somehow. There's got to be some criminal punishment that one, many, or maybe all of these people involved can be punished with. There has to be. And I would love to have a Texas lawyer do something about this. For this article, the Tribune reviewed a timeline of events compiled by law enforcement. That's the one we ran through yesterday. Plus surveillance footage and transcripts of radio traffic and phone calls from the day of the shooting. The details were confirmed by a senior official at the Department of Public Safety. The investigation is still in the early stages, and the understanding of what happened could change as video records are synced and enhanced. But current records and footage show a well-equipped group of local officers entered the school almost immediately that day. Less than 3 minutes later, there were officers in that building standing in the hallway. At least 2 of them had rifles. The other ones had handguns. They all had body armor. So they entered almost immediately that day and then pulled back once the shooter began firing from inside the classroom. They went in, the guy started shooting, they ran away like bitches. They ran away like pussies. They ran away like weak people. Pursue, and neutralize. That's the protocol. They ran away and they pulled back and they did not do a damn thing. Then they waited for more than an hour to re-engage. Beagle Girl 82 says they need to start a petition to get this jackass fired. We'll get to that. We'll get to what's happening to him right now. It's not nearly enough. It's not nearly enough, but things are afoot. They had the tools, said Terry Nichols, a former Seguin police chief and active shooter expert. Tactically, there's lots of different ways you could tackle this, but it takes someone in charge, in front, making and executing decisions, and that simply did not happen. The guy who was in charge said he thought somebody else would be in charge. He thought someone else. You're the fucking ranking officer. You're the police chief. It's your jurisdiction. You are the man in charge. And until someone higher up than you, which who knows who that would be, comes up and says, I am now their senior ranking officer, I am taking charge. Unless and until that happens, you are in charge, pal. This is all on you. No security footage. Here's some key findings from the records and materials. No security footage from inside the school showed police officers attempting to open the doors to classrooms 111 and 112, which were connected by an adjoining door. Arredondo told the Tribune that he tried to open one door and another group of officers tried to open another, but that the door was reinforced and impenetrable. You fucking liar. You lying son of a bitch. You tried it. Other officers tried another door. They were reinforced and impenetrable. Fuck you, you lying sack of shit. You didn't try. The door wasn't locked. It wasn't barricaded. It wasn't impenetrable. And you never tried. Now, you're Snakefinger, you're misunderstanding. It says no footage shows the police officers doing it. They're not saying there was no security footage. They're saying there was security footage, but none of the footage showed the police officers trying to get in the door. So basically, they're saying the footage showed that they were liars. So yeah, it's not saying there's no security footage. It's saying that no footage showed the police officers trying to get in. So yes, there was footage. And it showed that this police chief was lying when he said they tried to get in. Not the best worded sentence, but yeah, that's what they were saying. Those attempts were not caught in the footage reviewed by the Tribune. Yes, there were body cams as well. Okay, let's put these officers in a room with the parents of the deceased. Oh no, we're going to get to that. We'll get to that. They're trying to do that. We're getting to that. That'll be next. Don't they have to have body cams and record everything in Texas? I don't know if they have to, but they did. And that's things they're looking at. That's where some of this timeline came from, was the body cam footage and other recordings. So the attempts to open the door were not caught on the footage reviewed by the Tribune. Some law enforcement officials are skeptical that the doors were ever locked. Yeah, and we now know that they weren't locked because they couldn't be locked. Within the first minutes of the law enforcement response, an officer said the Halligan, a firefighting tool that is sometimes spelled hooligan, was on site. It wasn't brought into the school until an hour after the first officers entered the building. Think about that. This was there. It was there. It was on site. They said it was on site in the very early stages of this. And they didn't bring it in for over an hour. Authorities didn't use it and instead waited for keys. They didn't use they didn't need the fucking breaching tool in the first place, but they didn't use that because they wanted to fuck around and look for master keys for 30 minutes. Lacey P, thank you so much for that donation. That's awesome. I love you. Thank you for you breaking this down. I read yesterday that Arredondo was just elected to the city council on May 7th. So he was newly elected. Yes. Again, we'll talk about that, I promise, as soon as we wrap this article up. I would love to know more about his background and qualifications. I don't know about his background and qualifications, but I know he's completely incompetent, whatever they were. I mean, even someone with zero qualifications would know you don't just stand around for an hour and 14 minutes and shoot the place up. Officers had access to 4 ballistic shields inside the school during the standoff with a gunman, according to law enforcement transcript. The first arrived 58 minutes before the officers stormed the classroom. The last arrived 30 minutes before. An hour before they stormed the classroom, they had a bulletproof shield. I need a drink. They had four ballistic shields, 4 bulletproof shields for at least 30 minutes. Multiple Department of Public Safety officers, up to 8 at one point, entered the building at various times while the shooter was holed up. Many quickly left to pursue other duties, including evacuating children, after seeing the number of officers already there. So the public safety guys come in, see there's a shit ton of officers, 19 at least, and they start doing other things like rescuing the children that are in other rooms. At least one of the officers expressed confusion and frustration about why the officers weren't breaching the classroom, but was told that no order to do so had been given. And that's the other thing. This fucking Arredondo cat, in this whole explanation where he's saying, "Oh, I didn't know I was in charge," or "I thought somebody else was in charge," he had the fucking nerve. He had the gall. He had the unmitigated gall and audacity to say that he never ordered them not to go in. What kind of bullshit is that? He never gave them the order not to go in. That's not how orders work. You sit, you wait, you ready to respond. When you're given the order to go, you go. You don't just run around willy-nilly doing whatever the hell you want until someone says, "No, wait, don't go." That is just another stupid thing that this Arredondo dickhead has been saying. He didn't tell them not to go in. You're the commander. You're the police chief. You're the ranking officer. You're in control. You tell them to go in. You tell them to get the fuck in that room and take this fucker out as soon as possible. You don't go back later and go, "Well, I didn't tell them not to go in." Ugh. Georgina Archer says, so he could not borrow someone else's radio. Yeah, he went for a landline to call the dispatch on a landline. At least some officers on the scene seem to believe that Arredondo was in charge inside the school. Well, perhaps that's because he's the fucking police chief. I don't know. You figure it out. Why would anyone think that the police chief is in charge of the police? And at times, Arredondo seemed to be issuing orders, such as directing officers to evacuate students from other classrooms. That contradicts Arredondo's assertion that he did not believe he was running the law enforcement response. Well, who the fuck did he think was? Who gave him the orders to tell people to get the students out of classrooms? Who gave him the orders? If it wasn't him, who gave him the orders and told him what to do? Or was he acting on his own without orders? That makes no sense. He is so full of shit. He is so full of bullshit. He's saying anything he can to cover his ass and try to make himself sound like a reasonable human being. Who was he? If he wasn't in charge, who was police chief Arredondo? Who was in charge? Who gave you the orders? Nobody, because you were fucking in charge. I can be across the other side of the damn planet and I know you were in charge, but you didn't know you were in charge? God, this frustrates the shit out of me. Arredondo's lawyer, yeah, he's already lawyered up, that's for sure. George E. Hyde said that the chief will not elaborate on his interview with the Tribune given the ongoing investigation. Yeah, he's not going to elaborate on the lies he told the Tribune, on the lies that he's now been proven of making. Yeah, he doesn't want to talk to the Tribune again when they're going to say, "Well, how the fuck come you said that you were opening the doors and they were locked and barricaded and impenetrable when they swung right the fuck open?" He of course he doesn't want to talk to the media, and again we're going to get to that. What the camera saw. Let's look at what the camera saw. Most of the video from inside the school is captured by a wide-angle camera positioned inside the school's building northwest entrance, the same one the gunman used. The camera looks straight south from its north ceiling perch and offers a slight view of the entrances to classrooms 111 and 112 to the left. The Tribune also reviewed transcripts of radio traffic and body camera footage. They show that the gunman arrived on campus at 11:28 a.m. He appears to have been planning a shooting for a while. In October, according to the law enforcement timeline, he withdrew from Uvalde High School. A month later, when he was still 17, he purchased some gun accessories online, including rifle slings and a military carrier vest. He began buying his ammunition in April and purchased his gun on his 18th birthday in May. On May 14th, he posted an ominous message on Instagram, 10 more days. At 11:33 a.m. on May 24th, He walked into Robb Elementary's northwest entrance and headed south towards the two classrooms on the left side, randomly firing shots from his rifle in the hallway. He had crashed his car and fired some shots outside, so the school was already on lockdown at that point, and the hallways were nearly empty. No one was hit. But in the camera, a boy could be seen peeking around a corner at the northeast end of the hallway, apparently trying to return to class from a nearby bathroom. Why is this kid alive? Why is this kid that was seen on camera peeking around a corner while there's a gunman walking down the hallway shooting randomly? The boy heard the gunfire and ran away. He ran away. DPS confirmed that he escaped without physical injury. That's what the FBI agent is saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what a lot of you are saying. Run. That kid is alive because he ran away, not because he ran back to the classroom and cowered in the corner as the other children were doing because that's what they were told to do. This kid is alive because he ran away. DPS confirmed that he escaped without physical injury. That's why we teach children to run. This is the truck driven by the piece of shit. Within a minute, the shooter entered classroom 111. He didn't appear to encounter a locked door in the footage and began shooting. He briefly walked out the classroom door and then went back in, shooting some more. For the next 3 minutes, he fired frequently inside a classroom filled with children. There were officers there on scene at that time. There were officers that got there within 2 minutes, I believe it was, and they drove past him. There were policemen there while he was still in the parking lot. Keep that in mind. There were policemen on site when he was still in the parking lot. So the police are doing nothing while he's shooting up the classroom for minutes. There's a lot of pieces of shit that have a lot to answer for as this goes forward. Zero Max says 2 minutes and 40 seconds. He fired frequently inside a classroom filled with children. During that burst of gunfire, the first 3 officers entered the school. 2 from the Uvalde Police Department and 1 from the school district's force. All were carrying handguns. Moments later, Arredondo and 7 more police officers arrived. The shooter opened fire at the first 3 officers closest to the 2 classrooms, grazing 2 and forcing all of... God, listen to this. Grazing 2 and forcing all of the officers to bolt to either end of the hallway. Or how about you just stand your ground and you fucking unload on this piece of shit? 3 officers with fully loaded pistols. You're getting, depending on what they had and how many rounds, you're at least 8 rounds apiece. Fill this fucker full of at least 24 rounds. He's not moving. One of you might not make it, but you could have saved lives. Moments later, Arredondo and 7 more officers arrived. Then these 3 guys, they're forced to bolt. They're forced to run away. No, you're not. Stand your fucking ground and do your job and take this fucker out. Neutralize him. That's what you're supposed to do. These officers, including Arredondo, remained in these positions for the rest of the standoff, never firing a fucking shot. Never firing a shot. They ran away, hid at the end of the hallway with the fucking police chief, and never fired a shot. Officers believed that the shooter was contained. Yeah, contained in a classroom with a bunch of dead children and a bunch of soon-to-be dead children and a bunch of dead and soon-to-be dead teachers. Think about that. Arredondo called the Uvalde Police Department's dispatch on his cell phone. The school police unit was created 4 years ago and does not report to the city police. 7 minutes had passed since the shooter first entered the building. All of this has gone down in the first 7 minutes. There's still another 1 hour and 7 minutes to go. Hey, it's Arredondo. It's Arredondo. Can you hear me? Said the 50-year-old piece of shit veteran of law enforcement who leads a department of 6. No, I have to tell you where we're at. It's an emergency right now. I'm inside the building. Get off your fucking phone and go put around it in this guy. That's what you should do. Since the massacre at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado in 1999, an evolving and increasingly detailed body of training on mass shooting instructs police to confront shooters as soon as possible, even at the risk of officers' lives. Engage, pursue, and neutralize. As the FBI agent who developed this mass shooter protocol said they are obliged to do. By the time Arredondo called dispatch, at least 11 officers had entered the school, and at least 2 were seen in the video carrying rifles. But Arredondo told the dispatcher that he didn't have the firepower to confront the lone gunman, according to a transcript reviewed by the Texas Tribune. 11 officers with pistols, 11 officers with handguns, and at least 2 rifles didn't have the firepower to take out one untrained, no armor wearing piece of shit in a classroom that's murdering 19 children and 2 teachers. This piece of shit has lied every time he opened his goddamn mouth so far as I can see it. Listen to this shit. Listen to this fucking shit that this piece, and I tried to go into this not swearing. I forgot how bad this article gets. But Arredondo told the dispatcher he didn't have the firepower to confront the lone gunman. Okay, we have him in the room, he said, speaking on his cell phone. Listen to this. Listen to this. He's got an AR-15. He's shot a lot. He's in the room. He hasn't come out yet. We're surrounded, but I don't have a radio. I'm assuming he meant we have him surrounded, but I don't have a radio. I can't believe this piece of shit is a big enough piece of shit that he's saying that he was surrounded, that the 11 officers were surrounded by one gunman. I think they're saying he means to say we have him surrounded, but I don't have a radio. Do you have a voice? Can you yell down the fucking hallway? I think so. After the dispatcher confirmed the location of a SWAT team, Arredondo continued. Yes, and they need to be outside of the building prepared. Read that again. Read that goddamn statement again. The SWAT team, the Special Weapons and Tactics team, the ones that can take this guy out. They need to be outside of the building prepared because we don't have enough firepower right now. It's all pistol and he has an AR-15. That is stupid. That is stupid. This shows this man has zero idea about firearms. If he gets shot at a relatively close distance with that AR-15, it's going straight through him. Little hole going in, little hole going out. If they put multiple 9mm rounds through this guy, he's going down. They had more than enough firepower. This AR-15 bullet, the actual lead part, is a lot narrower and a lot slimmer than what the police offer. This is just shit. This is just bullshit. I mean, this shows he has zero understanding of his own weapon. Piece of shit. If you can get the SWAT team set up by the funeral home, yes. And how ironic is that? There's a funeral home next door, right next to the school, where there's 11. I don't keep saying 11, where there's 19 children dead and dying, where there's 2 dead and dying teachers right next door to a funeral home. Well, that's pretty convenient. Arredondo can just shuttle the bodies over there. He doesn't have to leave. Fuck off. Seriously. So he's telling the SWAT team to go over by the funeral home. I need more firepower because all we have is pistols, and this guy's got a rifle, so I don't have a radio. I don't have a radio. If someone can come in, great. Police chief doesn't have a radio. Fucking idiot. The dispatcher asked Arredondo to stay on the line as long as he could. Arredondo agreed, but said he'd drop his phone when the gunman comes out that door. They're waiting for the gunman to come out. Why the fuck would the gunman come out of the door? His job was to go there and kill children, not to come out and fight with police, not to fight with armed police. He went in there with the intention of murdering unarmed children and teachers. He's not. In what realm of existence would he have any motivation to come out of that room? Then the dispatcher shared the location of the shooter over a police radio and requested that a SWAT team be amassed by a funeral home across the street. So I need to bring a radio for me and give me my radio for me, Arredondo said. I need to get one rifle. Hold on, I'm trying to set him up. Yeah, this genius is trying to set him up. There's a window. They can see through the window. You can put a bullet through the window. You can break a window and distract him and come through the door. Then the call ended. Shooting started again inside the school with a minute of the start of the call. He's shot this shit out of the schoolroom. He's killed these children. The police chief is on the phone telling the SWAT team to stand over by the funeral home while there are more children being murdered at that time. The gunfire is continuing, and the police wouldn't breach the classroom where the gunman was barricaded for another hour and 10 minutes. This would not be a movie. This would not be a movie. If someone made a movie about police officers doing this would be the biggest failure because no one would believe this scenario was happening. Nobody would believe this level of incompetence, even in a movie. An agonizing wait. 1 minute after Arredondo's phone call, officers on scene reported that the suspect was barricaded in a classroom. A dispatcher asked whether the door was locked, and again with the door shit. A dispatcher asked whether the door was locked, and an officer replied that they didn't know, but they had a Halligan available. No such tool was ever used. No one even brought one in the school for another 54 minutes. A standoff had begun. It wasn't a standoff. It was an active shooting thing. A standoff is where everybody sits in place and does nothing and see who can wait the longest. A standoff had begun. The gunman fired shots at least 3 more times at 11:40. 11:44 and 12:21 p.m., but officers held their positions. That was true even as more police filed in and 4 ballistic shields were carried into the building over the next 40 minutes. They had up to 19 officers in those hallways at any given time here. The officers who entered the school at that time included DPS troopers who walked in the hallway before noon and left after seeing how many officers were already there. There's so many officers that other department people are saying, okay, there's enough here, and walking out. A special agent from DPS who urged officers to go into the classroom stayed for 6 minutes before leaving to clear other rooms, rescuing a student found hiding in a bathroom. More troopers arrived just minutes or seconds before the tactical team from the Border Patrol stormed the classroom, but did not participate in the breach. Another officer who entered the hallway was Ruben Ruiz of the Uvalde School District Police Force. His wife, teacher Eva Mireles, had called him on his cell phone and told him she was bleeding heavily. She says she is shot, he told the officers on the scene. The video from inside the hallway doesn't capture what Ruiz did inside the school, but a DPS official told the Tribune that Ruiz was soon escorted away by other officers on the scene. They didn't let him go in. They took his weapon away and escorted him away. At 12:01, the DPS special agent had returned to the hallway and offered his urgent assessment. The situation required officers to go in the classrooms. It sounds like a hostage rescue situation. No, it's an active shooter situation, you dumbass. It sounds like a UC undercover rescue. They should probably go in. A police officer, it's not clear whether from the city or school district, then said, don't you think we should have a supervisor approve that? Here's these DPS agents going, we got to go in there. There's kids in there. You know, there might be an officer in there. There might be an undercover thing. We need a hostage rescue. Well, don't you think we should get a supervisor to approve that? And I love this answer. He's not my supervisor, the DPS agent countered before leaving the hallway to clear other rooms of children. The painful wait continued. SWAT officers from the city police arrived on the scene at around 12:10 p.m. A little more than half an hour. The SWAT team was there for more than half an hour before this ended. And it wasn't even the SWAT team that took him out. Why the fuck is the SWAT team there? What's their job? One more. 1 minute later, Arredondo asked for a master key that would allow him to unlock classroom doors. According to the transcripts, it took about 6 minutes for a set of keys to arrive, and the chief began testing them on different classroom doors. Soon after, more gunshots could be. He's fucking around with master keys on another door, and then more shooting happens. That's more dead children. That's more dead children while he's screwing around with a key ring. Soon after, more gunshots could be heard from inside the classroom full of students. Arredondo tried to speak with the shooter, but he didn't get a response. Good work. Good work, Arredondo. Great work. You tried to talk to the shooter. Hearing no reply. Okay, sorry, we skipped a little bit there. Uvalde's mayor, Don McLaughlin, who's gonna appear in the next thing we talk about, told the Washington Post that a would-be negotiator working from a nearby funeral home to which the mayor had rushed also tried to reach the shooter, but to no avail. Why would there be a hostage situation? Why would there be a negotiation going on? Kill the fucker. At 12:38, Arredondo tried to talk to the shooter again. Hearing no reply, he indicated that the SWAT team could breach the classrooms if it was ready. By then, a long-awaited working key had been found. Officers inserted it into the door of room 11. Oh, they got a key. They got a key. They put it in the door, and a tactical unit from the Border Patrol stormed in. All that's available from the audio is a flurry of gunshots. There could have been a flurry of gunshots an hour and 11 minutes before this flurry of gunshots. The team then exited the room and indicated that the gunman was dead, 77 minutes after the carnage started. This is where it gets tough, guys. Seriously, this is where it gets tough. With the shooter killed, the excruciating aftermath began. The fisheye camera in the hallway captured a single first responder standing in the center of the hallway, his surgical gloved hands motioning to others standing behind him to remain there until all the officers exited. Once he got the signal, he directed the team to move quickly inside rooms 111 and 12. Gurneys and ambulance backboards suddenly popped into view. The first to reach the victims inside pulled motionless, bloodied children onto the hallway's linoleum flooring as they tried to assess their vital signs. None of the children appeared to make a sound. One child whose still body was placed on the floor had to be gently pushed to make room for others streaming in and out, his blood leaving a wide swath of crimson across the hallway floor. Almost immediately, the questions about whether police did the right thing began. There's no question they did the frickin' wrong thing. State officials offered contradicting information in the immediate aftermath. DPS Director Steve McGraw told reporters days later that it was the wrong decision not to breach the classroom sooner. He is scheduled to testify before a Senate committee on Tuesday morning. He's already testified, and that's where we got a lot of this timeline from again. Law enforcement experts say Arredondo was the rightful incident commander. Well, of course he was. Though they were baffled why he abandoned his radios, declined to take charge, and lacked access to classrooms. Because he's a fucking coward. He's a fucking coward. An absolute yellow-bellied, slimy, useless piece of shit coward. He panicked, clearly had no fucking idea what to do. He was apparently a veteran law enforcement officer. Clearly wasn't a good one. This is, it's unbelievable. J. Pete Blair, Executive Director of the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training Center at Texas State University, dismissed the idea that the state police, being a far larger police agency, should have wrested command from Arredondo when they arrived on the scene. The person who should be in charge is the person who has the best picture of what's happening and also the skill set to manage what needs to happen, Blair said. He added, command exchanges are voluntary. That's what we were talking about. You have someone going, hey, I'm taking command. Do you mind if I take command? Or here, why don't you take command? It's a discussion. It's a voluntary transfer of command that everybody is made aware of. They're not forced. Someone can't come in and say, I'm taking it away from you. Scrutiny has fallen most intensely on Arredondo. He defended his actions in an interview this month with the Tribune, but many of his claims are not supported by the records. That means not many of his claims are true because he lied about them. That's a nice way of saying he lied in his interview with the Tribune. He said he didn't consider himself the incident commander that day and never issued orders to anyone during the shooting. Yet at 11:50 a.m., according to body camera transcripts, an officer says the chief is in charge. Again, I ask you, Arredondo, if you weren't in charge, who was? You say someone else. Who was it? Who gave you the orders to do what you did? Nobody, because you were in charge. You knew you were in charge. You fucked up. You were completely useless. You're completely out of your depth, and you fucking dropped the ball in a way that left 19 small children and 2 teachers dead. Arredondo said he intentionally left behind his radios, which he said were cumbersome and had a habit of not working well from inside the school. But he did ask for someone to bring them to him when he called police dispatch. This miserable piece of shit is such a useless slug. He forgot his radios and then had the nerve to say he did it on purpose. He purposely left them because they're heavy. He has to go and operate in an active shooter situation inside of a school, and he said he left his radios on purpose because they were cumbersome and heavy. But then the first thing he does is ask for someone to bring his radios when he's talking to the dispatch. Piece of shit. He also requested a SWAT team, snipers, and a door breaching tool. That doesn't sound like someone who's not in charge. That sounds like someone who's in charge. It's not clear if he'd heard that a Halligan was available. By noon, officers had rifles, a Halligan, and at least one ballistic shield, yet made no attempt to enter the classroom for 50 minutes. In a statement on Thursday, Arredondo's lawyer Hyde told the Tribune, the chief has requested that no further comment be made until all the information is collected and evaluated to minimize misinformation. It sounds like the only one giving misinformation is him. Which serves no one. I must honor that request. Further, the DA must present the police shooting in this matter to a grand jury. So there is also a criminal investigation underway, which he must respect. I hope that means there is a criminal investigation against this useless piece of filth. I hope that's what that means. Him and other officers on the scene. The district attorney did not respond to a request for comment. At this point, it's clear that a multitude of errors in judgment combined to turn a bad situation into a catastrophe, said Catherine Schweid, a former FBI agent who co-authored the agency's foremost research on mass shootings and, as we read, developed the mass shooter protocols. The law enforcement rarely thinks their response is textbook. But I can't think of another incident in the United States where it appears so many missed opportunities occurred to get it right. This is the woman who developed the strategies for dealing with this, to say that essentially this is the worst she's ever seen someone fuck this up. But law enforcement officers have particularly homed in on Arredondo's search for keys. It may never be known whether that instance on obtaining a key was necessary as lives hung in the balance, which now it has come to light it was utterly unnecessary because that door could not be locked from the inside. The classroom doors are supposed to lock automatically, but from the start, the shooter could be seen walking unobstructed into the room and then darting easily in and out at least 3 times. The footage caused some authorities who watched it to question whether the doors were ever locked. Nope, they weren't. Through his lawyer, Arredondo told the Tribune in a July 9 email that the doors were checked. Liar. My memory is that the team on the north side of the hallway tried room on their side, which would be room 112, and I tried to open room 111. Within minutes of arriving on the scene, we both took the sprayed gunfire through the walls. You lying piece of shit. But authorities have seen no video that confirms that. If you're talking, Angela Davis, because a teacher left them open. If you're talking about leaving the school door open, that has been disproven. That the teacher did not leave the school door open that allowed him in. That was misreported. That they've shown that is not actually what occurred. That's pretty heavy stuff, man. That's brutal. And again, I can't put my mind around this. The human loss of life, the children, 19 children and 2 adults. While the husband of one of these women has his weapon taken away and escorted off the scene, where a father, an armed father, standing a few meters down the hallway from this guy who is killing his child, does nothing. Parents outside aren't allowed to do anything. This officer is running around looking for radios, looking for keys, looking for shit, not doing anything. I don't know what word there is to describe this guy. I don't know what word there is. I don't know what it is. Whatever the worst thing you can think of to say about someone is what this person is. And what about the human loss here? again, there's other stories that come from this. Like I said, we've got the guy whose wife, the police officers whose wife called him. He tried to do something. He was taken away, and his weapon was taken from him. The other police officer, God knows what he's doing in the hallway while his daughter is being murdered down the hall. But there's another story that I mean is just crushing. That just exemplifies this situation. The other teacher, not the wife of the police officer, but the other teacher that died. Just look at this headline. Irma and Joe Garcia, a teacher, and her heartbroken husband are buried together in Uvalde. That tells you where this article is going to go, man. I mean, this is, and it's I can't even, just, we need to get the word for this. I mean, and now I know lots of people are talking about it. We need to get this word out as widely as possible so that these people can be held accountable. It's stunning. It literally leaves me speechless. And for me to be speechless is a big thing. Okay. I just read this. I read that a long time ago. Sorry. Yeah. Again, if there's something you want me to mention, the best way to do it here is through the super chats. Liking and subscribing is just a thing. But I just don't, Let's look at this article. Irma and Joe Garcia, a teacher and her heartbroken husband, are buried together in Uvalde. They were high school sweethearts. Irma Garcia taught at Robb Elementary for her entire 23-year career. Her husband died of a heart attack 2 days after she was shot. It's time to take the advice of mods. Breathe and take a drink. It's time to refill. This article needs some attention. It needs a little bit of a break. While I'm doing this, if you feel so inclined to like and subscribe, please do. It feels weird to shill at while reading this shit, but All right. Let's get into it. Uvalde. In the days following the school shooting at Robb Elementary, the streets of this small town were lined by sets of 21. 21 bows of gauzy ribbons tied to thin posts of a black iron gate. The 21 candles glowing from the window ledge of the historic Uvalde Grand Opera House. The row of classroom chairs, 19 small red ones, and two taller black ones, looking out onto Getty Street. But then 21 turned to 22. At a memorial on the town square, another white cross was added next to the tribute to veteran teacher Irma Garcia, who died in the shooting. The 22nd cross was in honor of Joe Garcia, her husband, who died suddenly 2 days later. The family has said it was on account of a broken heart. I know this is rough, man. Jeez. I know this was too much for you and your poor heart couldn't take it, reads a scribbled note on the right side swell of the blue heart on Joe's cross. I will spend the rest of my life fighting for you and Mom. This was written by one of his children. Your names will not be forgotten. The note is signed, your daughter, Liliana, with a small heart drawn next to her name. On Wednesday, Irma and Joe Garcia were buried side by side in twin brown caskets at Hillcrest Memorial Cemetery in a coupled funeral that captured just how far the tendrils of tragedy can stretch. The May 24th school shooting left 19 families burying children, but it also orphaned the Garcias' 4 children. Hundreds filled the pews at Sacred Heart Catholic Church for a funeral mass on Wednesday morning, during which the San Antonio Archbishop Garcia Siller called the couple's children up to the altar. The 4 stood together between their parents' caskets, draped in white sheets, as the Archbishop called on the congregation to help sustain them in faith and love. The couple's oldest is a Marine who wore his dress blues to the service. The youngest was finishing the 7th grade this year. The high school sweethearts died days apart, a month before they would have celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. The Mass, some parts in English and others in Spanish, were closed to press, but streamed online. "You did what you would have done for any of us," Garcia Siller said in Spanish, describing how Irma, a lifelong educator, had given to her students until her last breath. Irma Garcia, 48, was days away from wrapping up her 23rd year of teaching. Everyone at Robb Elementary. She co-taught 4th grade with Eva Morales, the second teacher who died in the shooting, sharing adjoining classrooms. In social media posts from years before, Garcia celebrated the school's ritual of welcoming back former students dressed in the district's maroon school colors for senior walks ahead of their graduations. "Seeing them return to their elementary schools wearing their cap and gown is the reason every teacher in this district does what they do," Garcia wrote. "That moment makes all the struggles, long hours, and endless paperwork so worth it." Joe, meanwhile, had died out of love, Garcia Siller said. He was born in Uvalde. She was born in San Antonio. The couple began their relationship in high school, an obituary said, flourishing into a love that was beautiful and kind. Joe, 50, had worked for the H-E-B grocery store for decades, rising from produce stalker to management. And Juan Silvas, who said he met with Joe almost 2 decades ago, said Joe Silvas. Silvas was in town from Crystal City on Wednesday to relieve local workers. He would always want to make sure that everything was right, tried to make sure everything was great. So that way the next person behind him wouldn't have to do too much work, Silva said. The couple represented a cross-section of the mostly Hispanic working class community. She was an educator preparing generations worth of children for life. He kept shelves stocked so neighbors could feed their families. After the services, the pair of black hearses transported their bodies a mile down the road to Hillcrest Memorial Cemetery, where many of the victims from Robb Elementary will be laid to rest. Gathered around 2 large green tents, the mourners included Uvalde educators and district staff who wore dark gray and maroon polo shirts, the district's U logo embroidered on the left side, and H-E-B workers who donned the store's familiar name tags. Once all of those who gathered had paid their respects, the large white sprays of roses that sat atop each casket were removed as the undertakers began their work with the Garcia children looking on. The eldest lifted his white-gloved hand in salute. He held it until both of his parents were lowered into the ground. That's one story. That's one story out of 22 stories. Many of which, maybe most of which, were completely unnecessary had this useless piece of crap police chief Arredondo shown even the smallest bit of competency in this. So where do we go? What's next? What's happening with this piece of shit? And said there's a criminal investigation going on, and I hope he's the subject of that criminal investigation. But again, this was he'd been on the job for only a few weeks. he'd been doing this job for only a few weeks, and apparently, from what I've gathered, there's something in the laws there in Uvalde in Uvalde that says that he can't be fired, but one woman who lives 2 doors down from the school seems to have found a way to get rid of him, because they had their city council meeting, because apparently there's for some reason there's something in the bylaws of the city or something that won't let them get rid of a city council member that's been elected for some reason. But they've had a city council meeting on this. He didn't show up. He didn't show up to the city council meeting. I think it's only one he didn't show up to. They had a city council meeting to discuss this. The families were going to be there. The neighbors were going to be there. The residents of this town were going to be there. He didn't have the fucking balls to show up. He just skipped the city council meeting. As a city council meeting, he skipped the city council meeting. And then he had the nerve to ask for an excuse. He asked for a leave of absence so he wouldn't be required to attend any more of the city councils for a period of time. And they were just going to do that. The city council was just going to allow him to have this leave of absence until one woman read some documents and came up with a solution, apparently. Now let's look at her. Let's look at her solution here. Let me fire up this particular grill. This is from one of the this is the second city council meeting, I guess. So yeah, he didn't show up to the second city council meeting. Let me see here. Let's share this bad boy. This was sent to me by one of the viewers. Let's see. And let's go.
2 doors down from Robb Elementary. I was there the day of the shooting. So thank you for changing exactly what I was going to say, Mr. Mayor, because you said we don't have the power to fire him. Let me give you a simple out. You can remove him because he's going to vacate his seat. So your agenda number 6 is a decision on whether or not to give him a leave of absence. Why the hell would you?
Mm-hmm.
Let him miss 3 meetings. He's my councilman. Let him miss 3. Don't waste any more time on him. I know you probably all have a relationship with him. I don't know him. He's my councilman. I'm sitting in a district right now that no councilman has come to my door to say, hey, how you doing? There's 22 lives that were lost. We all know why. The investigation's going to come in and tell us all why and what we can do better. What you can do right now is not give him, if he requested it, a leave of absence. Don't give him an out. We don't want him. We want him out. We wanted to do a recall petition, right? We had so much enthusiasm in it right away. 162 votes, we need 25%, right? But we can't because he hasn't been in his seat for 8 months. That's BS. So then we thought, how do we change the charter? Well, it's already been amended. We can't do it for another 2 years, but you can do something right now, tonight, and not table whether you're going to decide to give him that leave of absence. I implore you, do not give him that leave of absence.
Okay, so where we are now, apparently, according to like these city bylaws and whatnot, the city councilmen, if they miss 3 meetings, then they can be removed from the city council. They can be removed from their jobs if they miss 3 meetings. He's missed 2. And this is where the mayor talks about That's pretty harsh. This woman is saying that she's read the bylaws, and she's saying that under the laws of for the city council, this Arredondo shithead, he is on the city council. That's his job. His position on the city council puts him there. If he misses 3 meetings, they can kick him off the city council. They can get rid of him. He will no longer be in his position. He's missed 2. And he made the application for an extended leave so that he could be excused from further meetings without facing any penalties. And she's saying, if you want to get rid of him, this is the way you do it. You let him miss the 3 meetings. And then you can just get rid of him. He's gone. And this is the mayor. And let's see what the mayor does.
I've heard you guys, and this bothers me a whole lot. I had an idea when I came in here. I was going to do a very short grant leave of absence so that we had to vote on it over and over and over.
So he was saying that they were just going to rubber stamp the approval because so he wouldn't have to be there. So he was saying they were going to give him the leave of absence so that the parents wouldn't have to see him at the city council meeting. But they've said they want him at the city council meeting or they want him gone. So he just said that they were just going to rubber stamp it. They were just going to have a short little item where they gave him the leave of absence. But
so you guys wouldn't see him? But I don't need to talk a whole lot more. I make a motion, we do not grant the leave of absence for Councilman.
The 2 doors
So that's
down
it.
from Robb Elementary.
They didn't give him his leave of absence. He must show up at the next city council meeting or he's gone. As a city councilman, he's gone from his position. That's the first step in holding this dirtbag accountable. That's the first step. That's the least they can do is get him out of this damn job. I hope this criminal investigation has him as the subject, because I literally have not seen anything as poorly handled as this from a police perspective. There wasn't a single thing that was done right. And a few minutes ago, Angela Davis said, so let me get this straight. We're blaming the cops and not the shooter or the parent. Okay, I mean, I get it, the fallout in the end, but it all started at home. We don't know what kind of background this guy had. We don't know what kind of home life he had. You can't always blame the parents. I firmly believe you can't always blame the parents. I mean, if we want to get biblical, let's look at Cain and Abel. Adam and Eve were, talking to God. They were holy, great people, but their son was still a murderer. The kids can have their own issues. It's not necessarily on the parents, but I agree that could be and probably likely is. But the shooter himself, yes, is to blame. Absolutely, the shooter is to blame. So let me get this straight. We're blaming the cops and not the shooter. No, we're blaming the shooter for starting this. Absolutely, it's the shooter's fault. But what we're saying with all of this is that it is the police fault. It is the fault of Arredondo. It is the fault of perhaps other police officers that the body count was so high. They had the opportunity, and it was said by the public services guy that this could have ended 3 minutes after it started. The loss of life would have been much less if this incompetent coward had given the order to just do your duty, pursue, and neutralize. Take him out at all costs. If that order had gone down, there would have been less loss of life. We don't know yet how many people were dead, how many of these little babies, how many of these little children were killed in the first 3 minutes, and how many were killed after. But in my mind, every single child and teacher death that occurred after the 3-minute mark is squarely on the shoulders of the police chief, this Arredondo character. So yeah, we're not saying the shooter has no responsibility. He has the ultimate responsibility, but the police have the responsibility and the liability for not ending it after 3 minutes and waiting 1 hour and 14 minutes and 8 seconds to breach and terminate. This guy doesn't get off the hook. He got killed. I would love to have seen him taken into custody, tried, and murdered in prison. I'm a horrible person, I know, but I would love to have seen him brutally tortured and murdered in prison. Getting shot by the border patrol is way too easy for that piece of shit. But that aside, a number of these deaths are squarely on the police's shoulders for doing literally nothing other than running away when they were shot at and not doing anything else for more than an hour and 10 minutes. That's it. I mean, that is the story. This has been 2 days, nearly 5 hours of me reviewing this. Utter incompetence. Indescribable incompetence. Literally, words don't exist that express the level of incompetence and disgust that I have for these people. And I mean, now all of the victims have been buried. They've been laid to rest. The guy's dead. He's out of the picture. He's not going to do this ever again to anyone else. The decision has come down that the school is going to be demolished. As the mayor said, nobody should have to set foot in that school ever again. The school's going to be demolished and I guess another school built. It's done. The thing that remains is to hold this piece of shit police chief responsible. To hold others that may have done something improper responsible. That is what we're about here. Everyone else is out of the picture. This guy he must take responsibility. And there's nothing in me that believes that this was not a criminal act on his part. Dereliction of duty, you criminal negligence. I mean, something there has to be something in Texas law that can punish this useless piece of shit. And again, if he goes to jail, which I hope he does it, I hope he rots in fucking prison. If he goes to prison, he's going to have to be he's going to have to be segregated. If he gets put in the general population and he's a police officer who knowingly took no action while 19 children were murdered, he ain't going to last in prison. He's not going to last if he goes to prison unless he's completely segregated. He's got to be put into protective custody or he's going to die. I hope he doesn't. This guy's a piece of shit. He's a useless human being. And I got nothing other than that. I mean, that's it. That's kind of the end of that discussion. I mean, I'll give updates if there's something to update as we go along, as the investigation goes on, whatever the findings are, whatever they're released, whatever happens to this piece of shit, I'll update it on. But that's the big thing I wanted to go through. I just wanted to go through. I had to get this out of my system because I didn't, as I said yesterday, I've become, it's just something that happens. You know, mass shootings happen. People die. It's become like blasé that way. But to see how poorly this was handled, it just got my blood boiling. And I had to let it out. But there, if any of you are religious, if any of you believe in some sort of afterlife, there's got to be a special place in hell for this guy. Okay, wow, that was weird. Huh. I just kind of blacked out there for a second. That was weird. All right. Again, there's no way to really segue in here. For some reason, my internet cut out and it connected me to Wi-Fi, and that was odd. I'm still here. I didn't run away. Wow, I don't know if you heard that, but it's after midnight on a weekend when you hear these supercars racing along the bridge, because outside my window is this bridge. Again, I know I've mentioned it before, but if you've seen the Black Panther movie, at the beginning of the Black Panther movie, they come to Busan. There's a big fight inside of a casino, and then there's a big car chase where Black Panther's like on top of a big blue BMW and they're racing across a bridge. That bridge is right outside my window. And on the weekends, they get these supercars, all the McLarens and the Ferraris and shit. They just race back and forth across the bridge. And I don't know if you heard that. So that's what I get to listen to until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But I'm used to it now. So I guess I never left the screen. Okay, that's good. I left my own screen. I just had the little circle-y buffering thing. But again, there's no way to segue. Thank you for the supercar that sort of pulled us out of that. But what are we doing now? What's next? Tomorrow morning, like 10 hours from now, I'm going to be doing some Alec Baldwin shooting stuff. My very first live stream, which wasn't really a live stream, it was a practice live stream. I wasn't really live. I just recorded it as if it were a live stream. Was the police interrogation of Alec Baldwin, the actor who fucking around on set, fucked around with a loaded pistol that accidentally somehow happened to have a live round in it and killed a cinematographer and another guy on set. And my first video was his police interrogation. And they've released more interrogation footage. The 10 hours from now, I'm going to be reviewing the first interview with the armorer who was in charge of handling the weapons and making sure the weapons were safe. We're going to do her investigation. Her very first interrogation, as well as showing some body camera footage from the scene, from the police. She was interrogated once for a while, and then she was brought in another time for about 5 hours of interrogation, of questioning. And so we'll do that, and then we'll kind of space it out. But that's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to be doing the first questioning by the police of the armorer who was in charge of handling the weapon that Alec Baldwin fucked around with and killed a woman with. And then we're going to find some way to move into, as I've been saying from day one, I want to get into some of the O.J. Simpson trial and the some of the beautiful, beautiful lawyering that went on. So what I think we'll do with that, I'm just kind of toying around with the idea of watching the opening statements from both the prosecution and O.J. Simpson's defense, where you will see some very famous people. Forget O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson's defense team had a very, very famous lawyer on. O.J. Simpson had a very famous lawyer on his team by the name of Kardashian. O.J. Simpson, one of O.J. Simpson's lawyers, yes, was the father of the Kardashian kids. So yeah, he many of you may not know that, but Kim and Khloe and the Kardashian clan, their father was one of O.J. Simpson's lawyers during his criminal trial way back in 95, 96, I think it was. So we'll probably do the opening statements from both sides, and then as I've mentioned before, I want to go through what I think is hands down the best cross-examination I have ever seen of a witness. And that was done by Barry Scheck. Barry Scheck is I don't know if he still is, but he probably still is, I think, in charge of the Project Innocent, which is the group that goes back and helps out the people that are innocent and on death row and serving life sentences, that uses DNA evidence and whatever else to exonerate them and get them freed. So usually where you hear that someone's been on death row for 20 years or been serving 30 years of a life term imprisonment, usually it's the Project Innocence people that have found exculpatory evidence to let them off and worked to get them released. Barry Scheck is in charge of that. And he cross-examined the Los Angeles County criminologist, basically the CSI guy for Los Angeles back then. And I know I've mentioned it a few times, but his prosecution is the best. I mean, his cross-examination is the best cross-examination I've ever personally witnessed. Number two, as I've said, was Camilo Vasquez taking apart Amber Heard. But I wanted to show you his deal. But his cross-examination is going to have to be edited somehow. Why does it have to be edited somehow? Because his cross-examination of this LA CSI criminologist guy lasted 8.5 days, not 8.5 hours. It lasted 8.5 days of brutal cross-examination that was done so masterfully. It was done so masterfully, and this LA County criminologist, CSI investigator guy was so brutalized by the end of this 8.5 day cross-examination. He was crushed so bad that when he got full week of OJ, or maybe scattered out over a few days, because I said that I wanted to talk about lawyers that have impressed me. And one was Jerry Spence. We did a Jerry Spence. We did a Jerry Spence article. You're all buffering? Well, shit. Some of you might be buffering, some might not. Who knows? Sorry, everybody that's buffering, but I want to do Jerry Spence. I did a Jerry Spence video. Go back and watch that. I want to do the Barry Scheck video, and then we'll get into one of the legal legends. One of the legal legends is one of the famous lawyers that's ever walked planet Earth by the name of Clarence Darrow. I want to get into some stuff about him. So that's kind of what we're looking at down the horizon as we wait for things to happen. The next big event, I guess, right now going on is it might be going on, it might be over. Is the Johnny Depp hearing regarding the judgment. I forgot about that actually just now. The next big thing, Taylor Schabusiness, she's going to be doing her arraignment, which will be very short, where she pleads guilty or not guilty. We'll do that. We'll keep doing these things as we go along. But I just want to thank all of you for being here. We can hang out a little bit longer if you want. I mean, it's 12:30 here, 12:30 a.m. here. I don't mind. If any of this has been interesting to anybody here, please pop in and hit that like button. Right now, we've dropped down from about 400 people down to 200 even, but we've got 446 likes out of this. We've we've got that. We got what do we get? 10 subscribers. We didn't get the 100 subscribers I wanted, but if you haven't subscribed, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, and there was anything even remotely interesting that may want to bring you back for more, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and then you'll be notified of when we're coming on. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, and we'll be doing some legal vices things. We'll be doing some whiskey tastings. There's several interesting people that I want to talk to. One of which is I have my pipe maker guy. He lives in Finland. There's another pipe. I've ordered a pipe. It's on its way. And when I get this new pipe, it's a Witcher themed pipe. If you're into gaming, the Witcher games, it's based on it's a Witcher themed pipe, and I'm going to have the pipe maker on here to talk a bit about himself, so you can sort of see the other things that I'm interested in get into, and we can talk about them. What? Korea has decriminalized abortion rights. Not that I'm aware of. Last I heard, it was still illegal here. Unless this is something that just happened. Oh, I guess it was. Huh. What the fuck do you know about that? See? That's just not something I'm involved in. I guess as of last year, it was decriminalized here. There used to, like the last time I cared about it here was obviously when my son was in vitro. No, wait. I haven't. Again, I'm going to say I haven't read the Supreme Court decision yet, the final real one, which is something that obviously we'll be hashing out. But like in Korea, it used to be the doctors, because Korean society preferred male children. Korean society preferred male children, and it was very common to do illegal abortions of female fetuses. So they actually made it illegal at one point to tell the parents the sex of their child. So the doctors wouldn't tell you if you were going to have a boy or a girl, because of almost a presumption that if you were going to have a girl, you would abort the fetus. So I guess as of last year, it's been decriminalized here. But again, what the draft, in a nutshell, what the draft of this Supreme Court decision said is it's up to the states to decide. They didn't make abortions illegal. That's a false narrative. The Supreme Court didn't say abortions are illegal. They've said it's up to the states, is the gist of the draft. I don't know what the final version says. We'll have to look at it and see. Let's see. This X-Homer says, from Twatter, Judge Ascarade was no nonsense as usual. No request for an injunction by JD. H will have to post settlement plus 6% interest a year or a bond to appeal. Yeah. So, okay. That's assuming, I mean, that sounds very, 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 very likely. That's sort of what I expected. And so they say, okay, this is it. It's got a 6% interest until you pay off the $8 million. And that's a lot of interest if you don't pay quickly. And then if you appeal, you essentially have to post a bond for the judgment amount that you owe. So good luck for her coming up with an $8 million plus interest bond. But yeah, we'll probably have to do a review of the motion and the hearing that was held. So we'll have to do that. But yeah, that's kind of it, I guess. We did a pretty heavy topic here for the past 2 days, and I appreciate those of you that stuck around. Is Korea more modern than USA? I figure a lot of the UK and Eastern world are, but I don't know. More modern in what way? I mean, the internet is more modern. Oh hell yeah. Yeah, I've got. It annoys me when I go on vacation. My internet is so slow. When I go to the States, and I'm like, God damn, this internet is so slow. I mean, 5G has been here for years. It's just the rest of the world isn't here. My internet speed is ridiculously fast in theory, but there's very few places in the world that can upload as fast as I can download. So, I mean, there's all the same amenities here. I don't know in what way you would be asking if it was more modern. I mean, maybe a specific example, I could comment on that, but let's see, that is what the person above said. I usually use a Korean or other country internet VPN. Yeah, so someone above is talking about it. It's technology is way ahead of the States here, but it's not used effectively. So it kind of cancels itself out. But God, guys, thanks for sticking with me through this thing we've done the last 2 days. The overturning Roe v. Wade thing, that's for people that are much more qualified to comment on those subjects than I am. It'd be fun to be on a panel with somebody, but I don't see myself talking about it because I'm just not that up on the subject, being on the other side of the planet, and that's not what I do. But it might be interesting to read and participate in some other discussions. So, hey, again, thanks to I guess we'll wrap it up here unless someone has something super awesome to bring up. This was a hard one to ask for likes and subscribes. It was a hard one to throw money at, or to shill and grift for super chats and shit. But it's not a big deal. I just kind of had to get this off my chest for the past couple of days. I appreciate everyone that's liked and subscribed to these 2 days worth of videos. I deeply, deeply appreciate those of you that were able and did do super chats and super stickers and super likes and things. That's muchly appreciated. And so join me about 9 hours from now. Yeah, 9 hours from now when we'll sit down and we'll just watch live. Not live. I mean, live for me, live together for me. I haven't watched the interrogation videos yet. We'll do it together and see what happens. We'll do that. Join me for that, and let's get the grift on with a more interesting subject than a bunch of dead babies. That sucks, and this guy needs to rot and burn in hell. Oh, geez. We got a big donation coming in here right at the end, which I wasn't actually shilling for. I was just saying thanks, but thank you so much, Surreal Goose. Thanks for the discussion the past couple of days. Yeah, it's been odd. It's been hard. It's been rough. It's been raw. It's been real. Well, see, this is the thing. Isabella already said, I had no idea quite how bad this case was, to be honest. Thank you for streaming about it. I didn't either. I didn't know about this either. It's sad, but it gets to the point where we go, okay, another mass shooting. Great. That sucks. That shouldn't happen. Blah, blah, blah. But just glancing at the timeline and hearing a couple of other people talk about it, I was like, holy shit. And then reading other news articles where people are saying this is the worst example of how to handle this situation that they could ever conceive of. Then I started to look into it and I was like, holy crap, this is really, really horrific and needs to be vented, because I was pissed 3 days ago. Oh, D what? Thanks, D. Super sticker. Awesome. Thanks so much. I'm going to get a few hours sleep here. Going to play with the dogs for a bit, take care of some business. And I'll be back in about 9 hours with some police interrogation of the Baldwin shooting case armorer who was on set for the movie. If you're around, please join me. I'll put up a notice here very, very soon. Thank you for the Georgina Archer has telepathy. I was just in the process of saying thank you for chats and stickers. All the love in the world to my super awesome, amazing, wonderful, perfect mods, and all of you as well. Enjoy your morning, enjoy your afternoon, enjoy your evening. Before I hit the sack, I got things to do, and I will continue to enjoy my legal vices until this cup and probably the next one are empty. Until then, take care and enjoy your legal vices. Bye.